Welcome, sir.
Against us, even if it means we are going to be put into a well. Look at Zedekiah the king. The name Zedekiah means the Lord is my righteousness. So this is a king whose name typifies somebody whose God is supposed to be his righteousness. Yet he could not stand and remain firm in the face of wrong advice. He tells the princess that Jeremiah is in your power. And the only reason he said this was the king could do nothing with them. That was the reason. He didn't have the courage to go against the voices of the princes. So he let them have their way. And this was human life which is involved. And yet they will have the princes have their way. And one thing I like about Zedekiah, that later on when Ebed-Melech will come to him and say, my Lord King, these men have been at fault, he would listen to the voice of conscience, the voice of reasoning, and he would change his mind. He would listen and change his mind, even though the voice of reasoning came from a court official. Call him a simple man. Friends, we won't always get it right. Sometimes, even with our good intentions, we may end up being wrong. But when we are wrong, and we are blessed with a voice that gives us a contrary opinion, do we still stand by that which is wrong? Or we would endeavor in humility to listen to the voice of conscience and change or correct our decision? So if God was his righteousness and he got it wrong, remembering that indeed God ought to be his righteousness, when the chance came, right was wrong. So the Zedekiah is giving us an example today. And when we are wrong and we are corrected, let us listen. And because we don't know who God will use to correct us, let every voice matter. It may be an insignificant voice to you. That may be the only way God is drawing your attention to something. Now look at Ebed-Melech, the court official. He wasn't a Jew. He was an Ethiopian, a Cushite. He sees something done against a prophet, and knowing that it is not right, he would go to the king to reason with him. Beloved, we all need a Ebed-Melech in our life. People who will stand up for us when we are suffering any form of injustice, when we are suffering from a decision it does not inure to our good. May God send Ebed-Melech our way. I like you, amen. But are you also going to be an Ebed-Melech for somebody? In going to the king, he was risking everything. He wasn't a part of the nobility, a court official who wasn't even a Jew. He was risking his position in the king's court, was risking the benefits he was receiving from there. What was pushing him was the voice of right. He didn't think that his voice wasn't going to matter. He was going to go to the king and tell the king what his peace of mind was respectfully.
Welcome, sir.
Witnesses, let us rid ourselves of every burden and sin that clings to us, and persevere always matters. In the reading, we're being encouraged to rid themselves of sin because they were surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. The saints who have toiled have become victorious. And that must apply to those we surround ourselves with when we are thinking of sin, be it personal, social, or structural. Because they can either help us to get rid of that sin, or they can make us even sink deeper in that sin. And because dealing with sin at every level can be tricky, sometimes you can give up, despair, and say, oh, that is human nature. So we are reminded that we must persevere in running the race that lies before us. In other words, let us not give up. Because human nature is who we have become, not how God created us or how God intended us to be. I'm sure you know of that story of the man called Mallory, that 1920 adventurer in England who embarked on that expedition to conquer Mount Everest. He went with a team of experts, and their efforts met failure, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So upon his return to England, the few who had survived held a banquet in his honor, and also to honor the memory of those who had fallen, those who had perished. And as he stood to speak to them, he looked round and saw picture frames of all those who perished, and also a picture frame of he himself. So on seeing that, he was overcome with grief, and he turned his back against the crowd and faced a large picture of Mount Everest looming like an unbeatable giant. And with tears streaming down his face, he spoke the following words: I speak to you, Mount Everest, in the name of all brave men living and those yet unborn. Mount Everest, you defeated us once, defeated us twice, defeated us 3 times. But Mount Everest, we shall someday defeat you, because you can't get any bigger, but we can. Mount Everest, you can't get any bigger, but we can. So one day we shall defeat you. That is what perseverance gives us. You may fail once, you may fail twice, You fail 3 times. But if you don't give up, one day, that which was a failure will turn to a success story. So don't throw your hands in despair. Clasp them in prayer as you draw strength from the cloud of witnesses who surround you. Finally, in the gospel reading,